Hey everybody, welcome back to the third tutorial in this series on how to make an email machine. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about a number of topics, including creating your first code. You can actually open up the VBA editor and we're going to actually begin coding today. You're going to be creating your first module and you're going to understand and learn about the VBA hierarchy and the procedures involved. We're going to talk about projects, modules, and sub-procedures. We're going to talk about the fact that all sheets have two names in VBA. You have a regular name and a code name. We're going to create a button that can activate a VBA code. We're going to use buttons to go back and forth between sheets within the tool. We're going to learn about adding comments, so this way you can write little notes to yourself so in the future you can go back and understand what that code means. We're going to talk about activating. Activate is a VBA function, and so we're going to be talking about that. How do you activate a sheet? We're going to talk about hiding and unhiding sheets. We're going to talk about not only hiding sheets, but very hiding sheets. Have you ever received an Excel workbook that you couldn't unlock? You couldn't unhide a sheet? Today we're going to show you how to do that. We're going to talk about saving the workbook and converting it into a macro-enabled workbook. We're going to talk about debugging. How do you get rid of bugs? How do you find errors in your code? And then we're going to talk about stepping through the code line by line, so this way you can see what is actually happening within the code one step at a time. So if you like today's episode and you really want to learn how to create this email machine, please go ahead, subscribe, hit that like button, and without further ado, let's get started. So this will be your first coding lesson. Take a look at this. This is our final product, right? So as we discussed, the tool will, this is the main dashboard, the main page, and you will create your email here. You will create the settings here. But when you click here, this is really where you're going to enter people's names and assign them different tasks or schools or positions or what have you, right? So we go back here, and again, this is we're not changing workbooks. This is all the same workbook. You see the way I can go back and forth? So how does that all work? Let's begin. So I'm going to bring up the downloaded version for you. So we're going to be working right on this one. This is the one that you downloaded. And I'm going to put this one on the side. And we're going to code it up. Okay. So how did I actually go back and forth? How did I press a button and it went from this, the main tab, to the assignment by staff tab? How did I do that? And how did all these buttons and this ribbon and all of that disappear? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. To begin coding, you must first go to Developer and then go to Visual Basic. And once you click Visual Basic, and VBA stands for Visual Basic for Applications, VBA, you're going to see a screen like this. So let me make that a little smaller so that you can see that. Okay. And so this is really where we're going to begin the lesson. Okay, so here at the top, you'll probably see something like this. Every time you open up an Excel workbook, you will see all the other workbooks that are available at the time. If other workbooks are closed, you won't see any of this. So if this is the only workbook, the downloaded version is the only workbook that you have open on your desktop, then you'll only see this one. You may not actually see modules. We just created that. But let's go ahead, let's create another module. So what is a module? So in Visual Basic for Applications VBA and all programming languages, you could have thousands, hundreds, thousands, millions of lines of code. And so in order to organize them, we group them together. So a module is a group of sub-procedures, and a sub-procedure is a group of lines of code that are organized that do some particular task. Today we're going to be writing at least one sub-procedure, but a group of sub-procedures is put together and organized within a module. So this keeps everything organized, so you don't have to go through millions of lines of code to debug or find a problem with it. So this is just a hierarchy that all languages have. We're going to click over here, you can click over here, you can click over here, wherever you want to click, and you just click Insert Module. And we just created this one, so we're going to change that because that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What we're going to do is we're going to call this one, we'll call this one Hide and Unhide. Okay? And so let's write our first code together. You can adjust these windows here, by the way. Okay? So let's write our first lines of code. So we begin by typing sub, and I'm going to call this unhide all sheets, and for consistency's sake, because my other code has the number 2 there, I'm going to keep it consistent. Again, you can call this whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. I do suggest that you pick a name of that's going to make sense, and you're going to see very shortly why this is important. So when you press sub and then you type in the title, the name of that sub procedure, and sub stands for sub procedure, it is a procedure or something that it's a set of lines that tell Excel what to do. And so it goes in order from here to here, and this is really where the magic happens. What happens between these lines should make sense to you, so that's why you call it this. You can call it birthday cake, you can call it whatever you want, but after you type in the name, you press return, and these two parentheses and end sub will be automatically added by Excel. So to make this easier, I'm going to just copy and paste the code. Okay? You can go ahead and you can copy this, and you can stop the video if you'd like, and you can just type this in. Okay? So here we have all the lines of code that will tell Excel what to do. Okay, so you see application display alerts equals false. So whenever you get those pop-up messages that say warning, this will tell Excel ignore it. Active workbook.save, this will actually save the workbook every time it's run. This says that it's just a normal window. This will show the display formula. This will show the status bar. This shows the ribbon. Window state normal. Well, we have that twice. It doesn't really matter though. We can delete one of those. Work tabs, scroll bar, vertical and horizontal, and the display headings all equal true. So watch what happens. Now if I want to run this code, I can run this manually. I can go over here and you see this green arrow. I put my cursor anywhere within the sub, I press the green arrow, run sub, and watch. And you can see now everything is visible. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it down here. And you cannot have two sub procedures with the same name. So I'm just going to change this to 3. And I'm going to change this to true. I'm going to leave that one. I can change this one to false. 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 So now watch what happens. I'm going to make this window a little smaller. I'm going to put my cursor anywhere within the code. See where it's flashing? I go to run macro, run code, and watch what happens. And so everything disappears. You see that? So now it looks more like a standalone app. It almost doesn't even look like Excel anymore. Everything has disappeared. See? Not even the scroll bars. And so this is how you would get rid of all of that. And look, I put my cursor here at this one. This is the first one, which makes everything come back. And I can put the cursor here. And then this one comes back. You see that? So now the question is, how do I make a button to do that for me? Because you're not going to want your users nor yourself to actually go to the code. In fact, eventually you're probably going to want to password protect all of your code. After you spend a lot of time writing code, the last thing you want to do is give this away for free. I'm giving it away for free because I just want to help all of you. But here's how we create a button. So what you're going to do on the Developer tab is go to Insert, click Button, and what this is asking you for is a macro name, but we're not gonna, it doesn't really matter at this point. We're not really creating a macro called button 3-click, so you could just leave it, just click OK. So now we have a button, right? But there's really nothing behind that button. It's not really doing anything, you see? It's not doing anything at all. What we need to do is we need to connect this button with one of these sub procedures, one of these subs. So this is how we do it. What I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to let's say I'll go over here and I right click. Okay, I right click, I click assign macro, and I want to assign unhide 2. So I scroll all the way down and I want to call it right here. Okay. So now watch. See, now it's actually running that code. But what if I wanted to hide? Or we can even practice this. Watch this. This one makes everything really disappear. So let's make it disappear. And now we're going to make this appear again. You see? So this macro, I'm I'm pressing the manually basically running the code, but here I'm running it through this button. This button is connected to this macro, and I can change that as well. I could change it to something else. I could even assign it to number 3. So watch this. Now it's going to make everything disappear, and I'm going to make everything come back. So I'm going to make everything come back right now. And so really the trick here that we want to accomplish is, first of all, we want to create a button that when I click on this button, what it's going to do is it's actually going to show all of the ribbon and the scroll bars and everything, and then it's going to show this. And what I want it to do is I want it to also hide this sheet and this sheet. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do is let's rename it, edit text, right? So we edit the text, and we're going to call this update staff list. Okay, so this is going to be assigned to the macro or the sub procedure that unhides everything. So let me show you something else too, because now I have to keep looking at the code and I have to keep trying to figure out which one does what. So what we can do is we can put comments into the code. So if you press a apostrophe, and then you can write whatever you want. You can say this sub will unhide the tabs and ribbon, etc. And then I press enter and it becomes green. So when you run any sub with these comments are totally ignored by the VBA code. Likewise, I'm going to add a comment here. This sub will hide everything. Okay, and I added the ellipse there. You don't actually have to add those. That's just preference. Okay. So let's take a look. Let's hide everything. First, I'm going to run this manually, right? So really what I want this button to do is this. And this is really where you have to really think about your planning. So what I really want this button to do is I want this button to unhide everything. I want it, all this ribbon and everything to be available, and then show this sheet. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is, remember this is the one that unhides. And so I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to say assign, and we're going to make this, I'm going to go to this one, right? And I'm going to change the name. I'm going to change the name of that sub to hide all sheets, because it really needs to make sense like before, right? And so again, what I want to do is I want this. So watch, I'm going to hide everything. I want to press this button. I want it to unhide and then show me this sheet. So how do we do that? What we're going to do is, after it runs, we're going to put all the steps in here. Okay? Remember, a sub goes in order from top to bottom. So after it gets to this line, then what I want it to do is I want this sheet, assignments by staff, to be visible. Alright, so let's take a look. First of all, in VBA, VBA gives every sheet 2 names. And you can see the names of all of your sheets right here. So assignments by staff is the name of the sheet, but the code name is sheet 3. And main is sheet 5, and menu choices is sheet 6. So when we call upon VBA to hide or show assignments by staff, we have a choice. We can either tell VBA to show the sheet, assignments by staff, or we can call it by its code name. I highly recommend, and I myself almost always use the code name. And the reason you use the code name is always better is because if somebody changes the sheet name and you're calling a sheet name, like right now it's called assignments by staff, if somebody accidentally changed that and just called it assignments, then when you run the code, the name is going to change, but the code is going to crash. It's going to break the code because the code is going to be looking for a sheet called assignments by staff, but it doesn't exist. But the code name never changes. So we're gonna use the code name. So this is where I'm gonna write a comment. Show sheet 3. Okay. So, but that's just a comment. I can write whatever I want. But this is how you're actually really going to show sheet 3. You're gonna write sheet 3 dot activate. Okay, so watch this. Now I go back to the code, now I go back to the button, and watch what happens. You see that? So by adding that one line, it showed sheet 3. Now the other thing that I wanted to do is I also want the main sheet, which is called sheet 5, and I want menu choices, which is 6, to also disappear. I want it to hide. So how do we do that? So let's first make sheet 5 disappear. So we're going to go to sheet 5, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to paste and copy that. Paste it. So sheet 5 visible equals Excel sheet very hidden. Now let me tell you something about this command, Excel sheet very hidden. Excel sheet very hidden, there's also another one called sheet 5 visible equals Excel hidden. And there's a difference between both of these. Let me show you the difference. I'm going to first comment out this line, and so let's run the code. So sheet 5 is now hidden, right? So typical Excel user would typically go over here and you would say, okay, let me just unhide the sheet. But you can't unhide you can't unhide sheet 5, or you can't unhide main, because Excel sheet very hidden makes it so it is unhideable. And so if you've ever gotten a spreadsheet where you could not unhide a sheet, it's because they used VBA. So this is how you make the sheet become in such a way that you could actually make it visible again. Okay, so I'm going to comment out very unhidden, and let's run this. And because the button is on the other sheet and that's still very hidden, I'm going to run it through this way. Okay, now let's take a look. We ran the code with Excel sheet hidden, not very hidden. And you see, unhide, and now we could see it, and now we're going to unhide it, and there's the button. So the difference between Excel hidden and very hidden is if you really want to not allow people to even unhide a sheet, you're going to use Excel sheet very hidden. I like to use Excel sheet very hidden. I don't want people, you want to be able to control their experience with the spreadsheet, with your app, and with your code. Okay? So for the sake of time again, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to also make sheet 6, which is the menu choices. This one, the spreadsheet, will also become very hidden. Okay? So watch what happens. Now I'm going to click. Now I just made 2 sheets very hidden, and all they see is this. And look, I not even unhide it. So now what we have to do is we have to create a button that will go back to main, and it will unhide sheet 6, which is main, no, sheet 5, which is main, and then it will very hidden or very hide the current sheet, which is the assignment by staff, also sheet 3. So let's go ahead, let's create that button. Insert, button. I'm going to put the button right here. And again, we can call it whatever we want. And I'm going to edit the text. I'm going to edit text after I remove that. And we're going to say, go back to main. Okay, go back to main. So now what I have to do is I actually have to assign the macro, right? Remember, hide all sheets. So we want to assign. We're going to go here, assign macro, hide all sheets. Now remember, what we need to do is we need to hide everything, and then we need to go back. Okay? So after we run through all of this, what's the sheet that we want to show? What we want to do is we first want to show sheet 5, which is the main sheet. But before we can even show sheet 5, we have to unhide it. So we're gonna unhide it. We're gonna go sheet 5 visible equals, and then we're gonna write visible. Then we say sheet 3 visible equals very hidden, and sheet 6 visible equals very hidden. So let's see if that worked. Oh wait, and then we also, after we make it visible, we want it to become active, so we want to bring it to the front. We want to bring sheet 5 to the front. So we're going to say sheet 5 activate. So let's see if that worked. So we've already assigned the macro to this, to the button. So let's see if it worked. And success. There were no errors. And so let's see if we can go back and forth now. Oh, we had an error. Let's take a look. So now whenever you get an error, you're going to click debug. And so what happened here? So you think about it, why wouldn't this work? Why would this throw an error? It says sheet 3 activate, sheet 5 visible, sheet 6 make it hidden, right? So sheet 5 and sheet 6 should be hidden. Why did it throw the error here? So what we're going to do is we're going to stop the code, okay? And you stop the code by reset here, and we're going to stop it. The reason is you have to think like a computer. Remember, the previous button made sheet 3 that we're trying to activate right now, it made sheet 3 very hidden. So the first thing that we really need to do is make it so it's no longer hidden. Let's add a line of code here. Sheet 3 dot visible equals visible. The reason is because sheet 3 is currently very hidden. And then at this point, so is sheet 5 and sheet 6. And you only have 3 sheets. So based on this, that would mean that there would be no sheets visible. And so you can't even activate it because it's not visible. And in Excel, the rule is you must have at least 1 sheet visible. You cannot have them all invisible or not visible. So let's add this line of code here that's first going to make sheet 3, which is the assignments, make that visible. So let's run the code again. Let's see if this works. And let's go back. And let's go back again. And the error has now been fixed. And that's how we created the ability to just go back and forth between those sheets. Let me show you one more thing about running code. Sometimes you want to run a code and you just want to go line by line very, very slowly. You don't want to click here. What you really want to do is you want to step through it line by line because you want to be able to debug the code. Debugging, we'll cover that in a later tutorial. But on your keyboard, you're going to press F8, and you even have this right here on the menu. Step into F8. So I press F8, and what this is doing is it's going line by line, and this way I can see exactly the code step by step. And then I can do the same thing on this one. Debugging is critical in any programming language. But how you debug and how you step through the process, how you step through it line by line, is using F8 on your computer. Okay. Now that we've actually written our first lines of code, we can no longer save this file as a regular Excel workbook. Okay? So what I'm going to need to do is first I'm going to run the code so at least I can see the ribbons. And what I need to do now is I need to change the file extension. So I need to go to Save As, but instead of calling it an XLSX file, I need to now change it to this one, .xlsm. And this will save the code. If I save it as a regular Excel workbook, next time I open this, all of the code will be gone. So what I need to do is I need to now save it as an XLSM. Okay? So now I'm going to click Save. And now I never got any error message. And I can go ahead and close this out. And I can even close this. And all of my code will remain. Okay. We'll see you in the next tutorial.